in this PhD program in transpersonal psychology, and I met this woman in a little town called Tiburon, California, and it's near the Golden Gate Bridge, across the Golden Gate Bridge from San Francisco. So somehow I ended up going to her little group, and there were 50 women, and I was the third man to join that group. And this woman was so interesting. She would be talking about the weather and politics, and I would be tingling inside. And I thought, oh my God, with all the people that I've studied with, and I had great teachers for many years, I thought, this is the first time I felt somebody that I'm tingling inside when they're talking. And one thing led to another. I ended up spending 6.5 years in a very deep, intensive transformational process with this woman. And she was bringing through a transmission of pure light, of pure energy. And I used that energy just to take my body through a complete metamorphosis, a transformation. This energy came from the heart of God. It was, she had somehow learned how to get out of her own way enough to open up a door to let this really powerful light come through. And this light, these people that went through that process for, those years that I was there, we all went through a major metamorphosis. I mean, it cleaned out our negative history. It cleaned out old traumas. It cleaned out ancestral programming and belief systems, conditioning that have been passed down for hundreds, if not thousands of years, that are fear-based. And in the end, it opened up love and sweetness, gratitude. And so one thing led to another, and I heard this voice bubble up in me one day, and it said, no, it's no longer in the teaching, it's in the doing. So after 10 years of studying to be a psychotherapist, and then 6.5 years with this woman going through a deep metamorphosis, I set off on my own and moved to Santa Cruz, California, and gave out 3 free passes to come have a session with me. And 3 people came. And the next thing I knew, within 3 weeks, I was flooded with people. I had 27 people in 3 weeks signing up for private sessions. And one thing led to another. And I was, at that time, there was so much light coming through me, I didn't know how to control it. People would come and sit in front of me, and this energy, this transmission of energy would come through, and they would go through metamorphosis. But since then, over the years, I have developed this relationship with this intelligence, this energy, that's available to all of us, this light. And I've learned how to open that door, how to talk to it, how to communicate with it, how to get out of my own way and thinking that I know anything and let it kind of run and take over. And what it does, it takes out old programming, old traumas, old belief systems, old conditioning, and helps us to surrender to the divine nature of who we really are in the highest place of pure love and sweetness. And Santa Cruz, I stayed there for 4 years, and somehow I ended up back in Canada. I had this old bus that I turned into a traveling house, and I drove it all the way up there and lived in it. And I ended up doing 5 groups a week up in Canada and up in British Columbia area. Like British Columbia. Yeah, five groups a week, 2 hours each group. So it's 5 days a week. And then I worked with hundreds and hundreds of people that came and sat in my bus, and we went through a whole transformation, bringing through light and energy. And eventually I ended up in Hawaii, where I lived for 7 years, and created a group there of about 12 people. We went really deep. I just took them, and we just went through very deep purification. And I ended up leaving there and going to Sedona, Arizona. And then I started to get started being invited all over the country, United States, and eventually different countries. And now I'm all over, people invite me all over the world. My only advertisement really is through my website and my Facebook. And it's mostly word of mouth, this work. It's not really advertised so much. It's because it's very unique work. It's for people who are really on the path, who are really want to go deep, who really want to take their body through very deep purification. And it's back in the old days, you know, we used to use acupuncture and body psychotherapy. I was trained in all that, Gestalt. And now we have the ability to open up, to get out of the way and open this door, and let this divine energy come through, this light that penetrates deep into the psyche, into the cellular molecular structure, and starts to redo our energy field, basically, because we're made out of energy. It just redoes it and lifts out the negativity, all the old programming, and brings us into a higher vibrational reality.
Can I ask you something about that?
Yes, yes.
Because I think it's very, like, for me, the question is, like, how does it affect? You know, like, okay, after doing this, after going through this process, how people react, how does it change their lives? How can it change my life?
Well, for one thing, it releases burdens that you don't even know you have inside of you that you're carrying. Old traumas, old fear-based patterns, mistrust that have been passed down for a long time. And you don't know what you carry inside of you until this light exposes it. And then I said, oh my God, what have I been living with all my life as it's releasing? So you get clear and clear and clear. At some point you get so clear that you start opening up gifts and abilities that you didn't even know you have. Like the ability to look inside another person and feel exactly what's going on inside of them. How to separate yourself from other people.
What do you mean?
Most of us, when we feel kind of yucky and terrible, we think it's us, you know? We take it personally. And I thought, oh, I feel terrible this morning. You know, I'm a basket case. I can hardly move. I can hardly get out of bed. But when after a while, when your body's somewhat clear, then you begin to realize that probably 95% of what you feel is not yours. We're naturally very intuitive and very psychic. So we feel and pick up the collective unconscious that's going on around us. And being in Israel, there's a lot of collective unconscious going on around you guys. And so it's real easy to think that it's you sometimes, and probably 95% is not you. It's what you're feeling in the next door neighbor, in what your friends who are close. Over time, we begin to see how telepathic we really are. We can feel people halfway across the world. I mean, we're so interconnected with each other. So these are gifts and abilities, and a natural ability, actually, that begins to open up when you take your body through purification. You start to see things as they actually are. It clears your mind. So you get out of the way, and all your problems and traumas start to evaporate and disappear. And then you start to move into a place of real gratitude and excitement. Oh my goodness. I woke up this morning and going for a walk. I just feel totally connected to the universe right now. And there's a feeling of deep connection and love. And these are just some of the results that happen with a cleared body. In my work, the gifts that have opened up in me, just to give you an example, is when I sit down and do a group, there'd be 50 people in the room, say, and I have the ability to look into somebody and feel exactly what's going on in their body. I bring it out in the open and I talk about it. And then I ask the universe, or the intelligence of the universe, the light, to come in, and it will fill them with this light. And then all these layers, they'll just sit there for the next 15, 20 minutes, and just their body will tighten up. It'll loosen up. It opens up, and you can just feel all this crud and this yuck that's been dormant in our molecular structure unlocking and releasing. So over time, it clears out the aging process in the body, because a lot of the aging process is fear. and it's old traumas and traumas that you were born into when you come through the womb of your mom and in your family. You absorb what they haven't moved through in their life, what they've repressed. That's yours. So what we do is we go back in there and we start to clean out those layers that we've absorbed in the womb and growing up in our families all those years. What's not love? And because a lot of those things, if they stay inside of us, that it creates tension. If I carry a lot of mistrust or fear or deep old wounds in my psyche, eventually that's going to manifest itself in some kind of illness or disease down the road. So what we want to do is we want to go in and identify what that is and clear it out. Mm-hmm. So we become healthier as we get older. We become more alive as we get older. Mm-hmm. We get younger as we get older, you know, mm-hmm. rather than all wrinkly and tight and rigid and hurt and wounded like a lot of older people are, you know. Mm-hmm. We become more flexible and open and more open-minded and live in more of a place of gratitude and sweetness, which is really our nature, gratitude and sweetness.
Yeah, you're definitely shining it through. I can see that.
Yeah.
I think many of the people, I posted the picture of you with the sloth.
Yeah, right. That sweet little sloth, isn't it?
Yes. So I think I have two questions, and maybe we can also ask other people, maybe they have questions as well.
Yeah.
One, about what you said, that sometimes we feel this yuck, but it's not ours.
Yes, exactly.
So, okay, but what do we do with that? you know, like, okay, I know it's not mine, but then, okay, how do I get back to my sweetness?
Well, one of the things that I learned is it's really hard to transform that yuck on a personal level. And my experience is that I had teachers for 17 years, and I used their structure to propel myself forward. Because most of the teachers that I chose were pretty clear, they could help me clear out my own blind spots that I couldn't see or didn't have enough observer consciousness to see my own yuck, my own traumas that was operating inside of me. I was just living out of those traumas. I was acting out of them. And they helped me to step aside and see what I'm living in. Mm-hmm. And then as with this last woman teacher that I had, she would then target the energy into those yucky things, and then they would just come out in the open, and it was like a balloon blowing up on the inside of the body, a fountain of light, and you could just feel this stuff expand out and just let go. And when it lets go, there's this big explosion and tingling inside. Mm-hmm. Is the synapses of the original feelings let go, the original traumas. Because all those traumas, they're tension in the body. Mm-hmm. And they create tension in our energy field, our deep muscles, our bones. Mm-hmm. And when they start to let go and release, you can feel the explosions of where they were holding on, let go. And then something lets go in that part of the body, like it frees up. If a person has, pelvic problems, there's a lot of pain or tension in the pelvis, and we get to what the core of what's being held in there, the light hits it, and then it lets go, and then all of a sudden it's wide open, it's freer. And we have thousands of layers of stuff that's been passed down for a long time. Mm-hmm. We're much bigger than we think we are. We hold much more in our body. And so our goal as people on the path is to recognize what we carry and burn it out. And you can do that with the help of a teacher who's somewhat clear, much quicker than you can do it on your own, because your own ego is not going to let you see. Mm-hmm. You're not going to be able to see yourself from your own unless you really know how to be an observer consciousness. And that takes years to do that. Mm-hmm. So you use somebody who's somewhat clear to be the observer conscious to help you see clear. So you have to be willing to look at yourself.
Okay. Okay. Nice. Okay. It's interesting to see what you're saying about like our blind spots. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Our blind spots.
Mm-hmm. And but I wanted to ask you about what you said before, that when we feel like maybe after the process and we suddenly notice that we feel stuff that are not our own. And the question is how to deal with that. You know what I mean?
Yes. Yeah, there's a couple different ways. Once you begin to realize that what you're feeling is probably not your own, which that I feel that all the time. I go into different countries, and every country has a different aura that's been fed for thousands of years of, you know, wounds, trauma, war, conflict, fear, mistrust. And so when we go in and start to identify what that aura is that we're carrying inside of us, then we evoke light, and it comes in and transforms it. So first of all, the first step is you have to clear yourself to become a really pure channel for pure consciousness, pure light. You got to start with yourself. You clear out your own closet. And then when you get to a certain degree, when you get to a certain level, you start to see the difference. Well, this really isn't mine. I think this is the other person. I'm picking up something that maybe not mine. But you're not going to know that until you reach a certain degree of clarity within yourself. And because it can be misused in a way. Some people who think they're clear and they're really not, then they think it's everybody else and not them. You know what I mean? But so we want to be able to learn the difference, what's mine and what's somebody else's. And after a while, after going through this process, that comes naturally. It's not anything that you can do with your mind. It's just, you know, the truth. You can see it because you're connected. You're no longer just living out of your mind or your intellect. Your whole body becomes an instrument of feeling and sensation, which our bodies are absolutely brilliant. And if you have an awake body, you can feel what's going on next door. You can feel what's going on in somebody else's house when you tune into them. You can feel what's going on in another country with a friend, you know, when you tune into them. Your body will pick it up like a tuning fork. And like a tuning fork, you strike one tuning fork and you put another one next to it. The other one will pick up the pitch. And that's kind of how it works. And when you got a clear body, you can start to pick up the pitch in other people's tuning forks, in other people's bodies. And then you read it in your own body and you use your body as your instrument. And after a while, when you really get tuned in, you start getting imprinted with information from your body. It will come up and then you kind of just know. And this comes with maturity and development, you know, as you progress into the path.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
So I would like to ask the people who are listening, what questions do you have about this process, and also about the retreat, because Dawn is coming to Israel, which is a very big opportunity to, you know, we're like you said, there are a lot of people here that are on the path, you know.
Yes, for sure.
Way.
Yeah, absolutely.
With different approaches. People ask me, is it like Theta healing? And we have a lot of people from ISTA, and we have people, you know, rebirthing. So I would like to ask if any of you have questions. And also I have a question in the meantime while you're thinking about your question. You can either raise your hands. You have this like you can click on raise your hand and then we can let you speak, or you can write it down at chat. And my question is, how is it different? Like, what's special about your way, your method, you know, when you're looking at other things? Like, I came back from Tony Robbins, which is way like way louder, but I feel there is a lot of resemblance in, you know, in all the beautiful methods we're working with. So how is your different?
Well, there's an old Sufi saying that there's as many paths to God as there are breaths. And this is just a path. And this is a path of, this is not technique-y oriented, and it's not an intellectual structure. This is learning how to get out of the way and connect with the intelligence of the universe, knowing that it is the much greater healer than I am. And so when I learn how to access that other dimensional reality and open up a door, there's light that comes through that door. That light is pure energy. It's pure love. It's pure healing energy. You can't really get to it with the technique. I of myself know nothing, right? That old saying, I of myself know nothing. It's my Father, Mother in me that doeth the work. It's getting out of the way and allowing greater mind to come through and orchestrate the healing. This is what's different. And I was trained in techniques. I was trained in acupuncture, Rolfing, different Gestalt, different body psychotherapies. I had great training. Encounter group process, I did that for years. And when I learned this process, my teacher says, you know, you have to let all that stuff go. And here I'd been working for 10, 12 years and, you know, developing all my wonderful skills. And she says, if you really want to learn how the feminine aspect of the universe operates, you have to let go of making it happen out of your own strength and make a connection with the intelligence of the universe and let that and learn how to work with that intelligence, and it will do the healing, it will do the transformation, it will do the work.
So there's kind of surrendering. Feels like it's more like
deep surrendering. It's a very deep surrendering. You have to let go of the idea that I'm important. There's, you know what I mean? There's something else that's even greater than me. And that is the intelligence of the universe that we're all part of, that we all come out of. You know, our intelligence is the mirror of that intelligence on some level. When we get all the other stuff out of the way, we become that intelligence in time. And then we know, we can see, we have vision.
Yeah, it feels like a lot of wisdom.
It's it's wisdom development. And I had a lot, you know, I studied techniques for years, and techniques, I built a lot of structure with that. But sometimes, you know, it's like being a good martial artist, you know, you'll study a certain kind of martial arts for your whole life. And then at some point you move beyond that structure of the martial art and you develop your own martial art. And so that's how I see techniques that we've learned, these different programs out there. And there's lots of them. And I've been in them for years myself. But then eventually a door opens and then you develop your own unique style. And that's where the universe takes you, because every person is totally unique. Every person has a gift. And that gift is very unique. No other person really has that same gift. And so what we want to do is find out what your gift is and what our gift is, which each one of us gift is. And then we complement each other with our gifts and our talents. So this opens up spiritual gifts and abilities. And it's the light that orchestrates that. It's like having a personal relationship with the intelligence of the universe that is tangible. You can feel it. It's not something that's a concept or just in the mind. It's a feeling that comes in you, and you start to feel this light open up inside of you, and this tingling and this connection. And that just gets stronger and stronger in time. And so you can be having a conversation with another person like we're having right now, and then you're tingling inside. That's when you know you're connected, and when you're connected to something that's true and not just out of the mind. And I remember I used to go to a lot of lectures from really high people, and I'd sit in the audience, and if I didn't feel light coming through, I got up and walked out, because I knew they weren't connected, that they had all the words and they had all the structure, but they personally hadn't made that connection. And so I started to only go with where I felt people who were connected, or movies or music, or to keep that energy evoked in myself and keep it alive and well. So I kind of lived my life that way, looking where the connection is and staying away from where I didn't feel the connection, or where I felt it was just mind, intellect, that wasn't connected to greater mind in the light coming through. So, and I think that there's a lot of awake people on the planet now, and when you find them, go there, learn their structure, you know. And there's many of us that are coming up through that and awakening. We're in that process, you know, and we will be the teachers someday. So, but the greatest teacher is always the greatest student.
Okay, so we have a question here.
Yeah.
Why did you choose coming to Israel? Like you have, you know.
Well, I always go where I'm invited, and I was invited to come to Israel, and I was invited about 2 years ago. I came to Israel from an Israeli who lives in Germany, in a dance center called Ponderosa.
Can you speak with your?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
And I was invited to come to Israel about 2 years ago from a person who runs a big dance center in Germany called Ponderosa. And so I came, we did a little workshop, and now I've been invited again by you.
And do you know, like from the people who came to Israel, who came to your workshop last time, in Israel and in other places, who are the most, you know, who benefits the most? Like, if the people here are listening, how should they prepare? You know, how do I know if I should come?
Well, for one thing, usually what happens is if you feel resistance, it's probably a sign that there's layers coming up, getting ready to be transformed. Because when you enter a light field, our workshop is sacred space. This is very high sacred space. There's a high energy in there. And sometimes the closer you get to sacred space or high energy, it's going to start pushing up the layers inside your body. And so a week ahead of time, you may start to feel some yucky feelings come up. That's when you know that you need to come, because you're getting closer to the energy field. You're already telepathically, psychically picking up what you're going to be transmuting. So what you're feeling is literally what you'll be burning out when you enter that energy field, that sacred space. That's how you know. So
people who benefit the most?
I'm sorry?
Who are the people, what kind of people benefit the most of your...
People who are on the path, who are open-minded, who are willing, who allow themselves to be vulnerable, who can set the critic aside and just open up to a new possibility. I think vulnerability is the big thing, to come in there and say, you know, I got this issue going on in my life and I need some help with it. And I'm willing to receive the help. I don't have to do it by myself, you know. And when you open up like that and the light comes in, it's just going to blow your mind. I mean, you just feel such transformation taking place, such tingling and releasing. So who can benefit from it? Well, anybody can benefit from it. I mean, anybody. I've had people from every walk of life on the planet and then some and benefit from it. The ones, that don't are the ones who think their cup is too full and they're not willing to empty it. And if someone thinks that they know everything and their cup is too full, they won't benefit from it. There won't be any room for anything else to come in because they know everything. So I always say, if you are really hungry and you can empty your cup for a couple days or 4 or 5 days, it'll transform your life in such a way that you won't be the same person at the end of the experience.
Wow.
You'll have gone through such a deep metamorphosis, and then you'll watch it showing up in the months to come, and you'll look back 6 months and you'll be in a completely different place, because it happens on such a molecular level. It takes, the body will integrate it as the months go by into the new place. You won't be able to do the old stuff anymore that doesn't match your higher vibration, higher vibrational reality.
Amazing.
So this literally takes people from this vibration and lifts them to a higher vibrational reality, a higher grid, moving beyond the old world mind grid to more of a global family kind of energy that we realize we're all in this together. We're all brothers and sisters on the path, and we're all here to support each other and love each other and raise each other. That's where it takes us. So if we're open to that and let go of our stance and our separation process, then we'll go all the way into our full potential. And this light will take you all the way into your full potential, because that's what it does. You won't be able to not do it. If you sit in the light, you will not be able to not realize your full potential in time. And also what it does, it'll kick off Kundalini, and it will start taking the body through measured Kundalini process. But it is orchestrated by the universe. It's not a technique. It's not force. It's not something you're trying to make happen. It's all orchestrated by the universe. So in time, all the centers open up in the body. And if you understand what Kundalini is, that's exactly what it is. It's a natural process. So this speeds up the natural process. But it's orchestrated by the intelligence of the universe itself, not by the ego or technique, which a lot of Kundalini processes do. They're pushing the river rather than letting the universe take over. Over time, the universe takes over because it takes over the glandular system, the chakras, and then it starts to orchestrate the chemistry of the body as we get older. So it brings the body into harmony and balance with the way the universe works and the way it operates. But it's the light that does that. It's the intelligence that does that. We can't do that ourselves with our own egos. So we get out of the way and let this greater intelligence come in, and you can feel it. I mean, it's profound that we have access to it. I mean, it's profound that we, at this time, we're able to access this great energy, this great light.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah,
Okay,
it is.
we have another question.
Exciting.
Yes. So let's see, and I really encourage all of you to ask questions, because this is a great opportunity. So I'm letting you speak. Go ahead.
Hi, Don. So we met a few months ago when we had a one-on-one session, and it was really amazing. Some of the people here on my call might have seen a video that I recorded, also celebrating that you're coming and inviting people to join. And I have a question that it's also for me, as I consider myself someone on the path, and also all of these people, and it's also for me but also maybe for people who are less deep in the work of the path, is a lot of the words that you use are not ones that we're used to hearing. And there is sometimes this skeptic that you mentioned that comes up that's like, well, I don't even know if I believe in the grid and these kind of, I deeply do, but there are these moments. So I wonder how, also in sharing with friends that I've invited, kind of for someone who's less comfortable with those concepts and that way of understanding the world, how we can work with that, how you work with that, and if someone does feel a calling to come but has this, well, I don't know what these energy things are you're talking about, but I hope that's clear.
Yeah, I think it's a great question. And one of the things that I realize is, being Israeli and having a Jewish background, you're naturally deeply spiritual. I mean, it's in your genetics, it's in your bone, it's very old. And so my terminology is unique to me, but it will resonate with the teachings that you already have inside of you. When the energy comes in, I say, oh yeah, this makes sense. Oh yes, this makes sense. Like I recently had a Jungian analyst come to my groups. He's followed me around for 3 or 4 years around the planet, came to every group. And he was so fascinated because I had a certain terminology that I was using, but in his feeling, it was exactly the same thing that Jung was talking about. And so it resonates. If there's a truth in you, it will resonate with that truth, even though, because it's all energetic, it's a feeling. Even though the terminology may be a little strange and a little bit different, it's only my terminology. In my limited mind, I do my best in my limited terminology, but the energy coming through is universal. And that is something that will ring true with your own deep truth that you already have inside of you. You can feel it.
I have another question. If you finished, or
Yeah. Does that somewhat answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
Okay.
You will recognize the truth of the light when it comes through. You cannot deny it because it's already in you. It's just like unlocking little doors. Yeah. However deep that truth is, it comes right out into the open and it becomes knowing to you.
I would like to ask you if you have a special story of someone who came with some problem or some pain, something he wanted to change in his life, and how did it work out? Like, for me, it would help to have a little sensation. Yes, to the mind, I know, but
yeah, I have. There's in my work, I feel so grateful to the universe that I've had miracle after miracle after miracle. Many people all over many countries. There's one that comes to mind. I was working in there's 3 peace centers in Northern Ireland. And Northern Ireland, has been in conflict for a long time, and with the Catholics and the Protestants, and the fighting back and forth, bombs, shootings, and I worked in one of the peace centers. I was invited to come and teach there, and I worked there for a few years. And this woman came one time, and she had 4-stage cancer throughout her body, and it was in her liver. It was in her pelvis. Anyway, she was dying, and she was yellow. She had 3 kids. She was raising 3 kids by herself. She was 37 years old, and I don't know where the kid's dad was, but she had to work and provide for those kids. And here she had this cancer in her body, and she had tried everything. She went through chemo and radiation, and had her uterus removed and all her sexual organs. And so anyway, she came in, and we started doing some work on her. And what I was after, I wanted to get to the root. What is causing this cancer in the first place? Why does she have cancer? There's got to be a reason she has cancer. I mean, it's causing something in her is causing her cells to go out of whack and mutate in a different way. And so I brought through the light, and the light filled her up. And she had releasing after releasing after releasing. We sat there for a couple hours in the group and just major healing taking place, releasing. And then that night she went home and she had a dream. And her dream was that her father had sexually molested her when she was 6 years old. And she had completely blocked it. And it probably happened a few times up until she was about 6. And she had completely blocked it, buried it. And so we talked about it. And once we talked about it, brought that out in the open, my God, all this energy started to unlock from her body and from her pelvis. And then the workshop ended. 3 weeks later, actually, no, it was 3 months later. I think 3 months later, I was back in Northern Ireland doing another workshop. And she came in with 2 or 3 of her friends, and all her cancer disappeared. And her friends thanked me profusely for saving her life. Well, it was the light that saved her life, because we got to the original trauma, that she had buried this conflict that she grew up in, being sexually molested by her father, and the trauma inside. And when she got in touch with the feelings and released it, her body healed itself. It knew how to heal itself when it got to the origin. So that stood out to me as I felt so grateful to the intelligence of the universe that it could do something like that, because it wasn't me, it was something much greater than me. And
Wow.
so.
And it was just the retreat, or did she do anything like?
Yeah, she had a phone session before.
Mm-hmm.
She had a phone session. I think that's how she initially contacted me.
Mm-hmm. Then
it was the retreat, but that was one,
Mm-hmm.
Then there's people with back issues that, the back that they clear up because they're holding all this stuff. They're holding back, they're holding stuff in their back. The light comes through and we release all that stuff that they hold back, and then they have no more back issues. Their spine straightens out, People that have scoliosis or lordosis or different physical issues with their spine because there's tension in the body, holding on to trauma that throws these things out of whack inside the body. It's just emotional issues. I remember one time I was in Ireland actually doing a workshop in this bar called the Spirit Room. It was an old church that got turned into a bar, and then the bar closed and then became a group session place called the Spirit Room. And this guy came in and he had a psychosis. He was totally in his psychosis in the room. And so I stood up in front of him and he got him out in the middle of the circles, and he was totally in his schizophrenic manic stage. And we let the universe come in, and I brought energy in, and he sat there and he shook from head to toe. I had to hold him up to keep him from falling over. And he was just filled with this light, and all of a sudden, after about an hour, something just settled inside of him, and he was stable. It stabilized him, it normalized him. And so, these traumas can create chemical imbalances in our body and throw our brains out of whack. And we have these illnesses for a reason. And the universe knows how to target it and get in there and expose it, transform it, when we know how to get it out of the way. If we think that we can heal something like that, we may be able to do it through Western medicine approaches. But from an energetic perspective, the universe can bring us back into harmony, bring our body back into alignment with the way the universe works, which is love and gratitude and sweetness.
Beautiful. Wow.
So we can heal ourselves. There's lots of situations. You'll see.
Mm-hmm.
You'll see.
Okay. I see 3 more questions, or 2 more questions here. Do you see it, or should I read it? I'll read it anyway.
I don't see it. Yeah, so maybe better read it.
Okay. Yoshua asks, I have a question about free will. I understand being guided by the universe and a higher intelligence. How does one have free will if we're always doing according to the universe's guidance?
Well, I think that we use our free will to connect with the universe. We can choose anything. There's a guy that lives across from me that every day he drinks a 6-pack of beer, or 6 to 10 beers every day. He's using his will to drink beer, and I always talk to him. I says, "You're poisoning yourself." I says, "You become much more successful when you quit drinking. You'd be much happier." But he uses his free will to choose the path that's destructive. So we can use our free will to get on the path, to do our work, to be willing to humble ourselves enough to look at ourselves, or we can use our will to think that, oh my God, nothing wrong with me. I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing. So yeah, we have free will that we can use to support our transformational process. We can use our will to help surrender. We can use our will to connect with divine will be done through us.
I guess it's also not just surrendering, but surrendering and cooperating. Like, okay,
it is. It's a cooperation.
Okay, what's next? It's not that I will not do anything from now on. I'll just do it with more energy, I guess.
Oh my God, I remember when I first entered that group with that teacher and 50 women, right? 3 men. For the first 2 years, I was clobbered. Every blind spot in me was completely exposed and confronted by these really powerful California women, And I just, at times I'd get hit with something, we hit with the truth, and my body would just go into a rage. So I used my will to move into observer consciousness and not react from my rage. I had enough common sense to realize that I was being given a gift and it was pushing all my buttons. And I wanted my buttons pushed. And after a while, I started putting myself out there and says, if anybody has any thoughts or anything you see me doing that's a blind spot, please let me know. And people they'd get up and just, I saw you doing this. And I said, thank you very much. That's true. I did do that. And after a while, I used my will to surrender, to at least look at myself rather than to resist what other people were saying. Because it's easy to resist and block, but the universe speaks to everybody in our world, everybody around us, all of our friends. The universe is always talking to us and guiding us to our friends. And if we block all those people, we're blocking the universe itself. Mm-hmm. So we can use our will to force ourselves to listen to, face our feelings, face our hurt. Yes, I feel really wounded by that, but I'm going to let the light shine through that and let it clean up too. Or we can react and block. That's a misuse of will.
Right.
Divine will be done. Divine will be done. Divine will be done. When we connect with greater mind, it has its own guidance for us. And when we learn to cooperate and we see the magic when our life starts getting better and better and better, and we stop resisting that internal guidance, then we move into our full success in our life. We join the human race in some way,
Beautiful. Yay.
Yeah.
Yeah. High five.
Yeah. That's right.
Okay, so there's another question from Eden.
Aiden. Yay. Aiden.
So she asks, so basically you're connecting to source energy and operate it on the person who wants to get the healing? Are you going to teach your method here in Israel?
Yes, this workshop is all about this whole training experience.
Wait, there is more. And is it possible to learn it in such a short time? Mostly I hear about people who manage to connect to source energy only after something very unusual is happening to them.
Well, you will connect with source energy in this workshop because that's what it's all about. You will be guided and directed there. In the source energy itself, the intelligence is going to build its structure inside your body. It awakens itself inside of you. it's as if you're in a partnership with this greater intelligence, and you join together to accomplish something. It's not just you that's doing it. It's doing it because you invite it to do it. And so it starts to work with you. Eventually, you'll be able to call on it. And it can happen quickly. I mean, it's after, I would say, a couple days, you're going to start to get it. And it's not something that's outside of us. It's something that's very easy. It's like having this friendship or a partnership with a great lover. And so it likes to be treated like a lover. And the other, one of the things that it likes to be thanked all the time. So I spend my, I go through my day and I say, oh, thank you for my fishing pole, or thank you for my nice boat that I have. And thank you for this great breakfast I had this morning. And I go for a walk and I say, thank you for that beautiful oak tree filled with Spanish moss. I live in Florida, so you see things like that, So I'm always thanking my lover because that's how I deepen my relationship with it.
That's a beautiful thing to say for for lovers as well.
It is. Because our lover's always given us everything that comes to us comes from the great lover, comes from the great spirit.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
I think
what is it in Judaism? There's 78 names for God, or 72 names for God, or something. That's the great lover. It has many names. So it doesn't care what we call it. We can call it sweet thing. It likes that.
Yeah.
Great Spirit has it knows when we're talking to it and we're living in gratitude. It can feel it, and it responds and it gives back. When it gets our attention, it gives back and it starts to reveal itself in a very deep, profound way.
All right. So I feel the previous question is also about like, will it last? Like, okay, if I'm going to the retreat and I'm feeling it, I'm going through the process, I transform.
It started.
It started.
It started. We're in it.
Okay. But is there anything like tools that are being used after, or it's just?
Yes, because this is a training experience. By going through the process, you will learn the structure of how to work with the intelligence of the universe. It'll come so natural to you. It's not anything you have to make happen. You will just happen. That's the nice thing about sitting in a sacred space where there's lots of light coming through, because the light is building its structure inside of you. It's building wisdom, vision, connection to the deepest place of who you really are. And it does it so effortlessly. It's not something that needs to be created by the intellect or the mind so much. It can be supported by the mind, but it's a phenomenon that takes place. It's like a transmission of this beautiful sacred light coming into you and opening up a door that floods you. It's like a fountain going off, and it floods you. And the more we can sit in that fountain, the more it takes us through metamorphosis, and the more we become who we really are, in opening up all our innate abilities and our gifts, which is really the natural self. We have many gifts that we don't understand, that do open.
Wow, thank you. So I will ask maybe any Taylor, maybe maybe anyone else has questions, because we have something like 5 minutes left, and I want to tell you about the retreat itself that's going to take place in Karkur in Israel in May, right? May 10th. It's my birthday.
What a birthday present.
Yeah.
Perfect.
So if any of you are interested and want to take it one step higher with Dawn, it's a very special offering because this is going to take place for 5 days, right? 5 days. And,
yes.
And each day is like you come in the morning, we have some break at lunch, and it ends in 5 o'clock. So you don't need to go to other countries. Like it's so close. Like the light really made it easy. And for the people who are joining today, it's I say it in Hebrew. It's 1,780 במקום 1,980 ש"ח. זה כאילו, זה אחד המחירים הכי נגישים שיש לסדנאות בתחום הזה. I just said that it's beautiful that it's so easy to come.
Yeah, I'm very excited. I think we're going to have some fun.
Yes.
Because Israel itself is such a sacred place. I mean, you guys all grew up into it, and the vibration of it. And it has its conflicts and there's pain and suffering involved too. And we kind of want to raise the vibration of all that and kind of clear that out of our own bodies and move above that, into a higher vibration. Mm-hmm. And the more of us that do that, the more others we bring along with us. So it's a very individual experience. So what I do with myself affects everybody else around me. It's all telepathic, The higher I get, the more I offer something to other people.
So my question is if people coming to the retreat and they're also healers, how will it affect their work? Because I think there are many healers here in Israel, people who work with other people, people who help other people. How it will affect. And in the meantime, I'm putting the link to the event and to Nir's phone number, and Ilana, so you can assign for this retreat because it's a very special offer and it's ending today. So
okay.
How it will affect the healers, the beautiful souls?
Well, I think that, as healers, it'll just open up a bigger door inside of us. It'll bring more ability to connect and get out of the way, bring through a transmission of light. So we start using that light to do healing. I would say 50% of the people I work with are in the healing field in some way around the world, And so we're raising each other. We're bringing each other up. We're all in this together. We're all brothers and sisters, and we're raising each other. We're making each other stronger, better healers, because we've got a lot of work to do. The planet needs help right now. And so it will only enhance your own abilities. It'll open up more vision. It'll connect you deeper with the intelligence of real power coming through. And this, I'm talking about real power. One quick question. I was in Denmark recently, and it was in a yoga center. Most of the people there were yogis or healers of some kind, therapists, psychotherapists, one doctor, I think. And for 2 days in a row, for 2 hours each day, we didn't even talk. There was so much pure stream of pure consciousness coming through, pure energy. And people just sat there and opened up and just went through this metamorphosis. They were tingling from head to toe. Layers and layers and layers were just releasing. And it wasn't even saying anything. It was just the sound of pure silence, of pure transmission of light coming through. Well, every person who experienced that is going to be a different person in 6 months. I mean, it's just going to open up that door of connection to a greater intelligence that they never even knew they had, So it's healer training. I mean, doesn't matter what method you use, it's going to enhance you. It's going to open up your intuition at a deeper level. You're going to be able to read your body more with people that you come into contact with. You can start to read their minds, read what's going on inside their body through your body. It just enhances that. So, yeah.
Thank you, Don.
Yeah. You're so welcome. Yeah, it's nice to meet you all, actually. And hello, everybody.
Hi.
Hello.
Yes, we have here many people following and listening. So thank you.
Yeah, fun. Yeah, it's really nice to see you all and meet you. And I can see little pictures. And
Yes.
sweet.
So how are you? How are you excited about coming to Israel?
Yes, I'm excited. I have a big trip ahead of me here. I leave on the 20th of this month in 4 days. So I'm madly getting everything in my house together because I'll be gone for a month and a half. And
yeah, you're going.
I'll be in Ponderosa, that professional dance center training place, and then I go to Denmark, and then I come to Israel, and then I go to Sweden.
So all of that retreats that you're doing.
Yeah, they're all retreats, and then I'll be in 3 other workshops in Germany after that. So Germany's going through a big healing.
Nice. Okay. So anything else you want to add?
Well, I feel very touched to meet you all. I feel a lot of love and sweetness, and I think we did something together and made a little connection, and you're all beautiful. As I look at you, I can see that. So thank you very much for taking me in, taking the time to listen.
Thank you.
Thank you.